Elves. Discuss. Matt, we lost internet.
Hey, we're back.
Oh, we're back. Hey.
Back at it again. We need to upgrade our fiber internet. Or not unplug things when we're...
Or just plug them into the correct...
I mean, what are you going to do?
Correct spot first time.
You know, interns. It was me. All right, let's go into our last question. This has been a...
So I think we clearly established that a hot dog is a sandwich. Moving on.
Wait, did we?
Yep.
I don't think we did.
Oh, we did. I guess it all depends on your perspective.
Hey! Thanks to Marcus.
So we have been talking about perspective a lot. Specifically in our Sunday messages, looking at perspective within the story of Jesus here healing the man who was paralyzed. And so we've spent 3 weeks so far just looking at the same story from different perspectives. We did the perspective of the Pharisees, of the man who was healed, and the friends that brought him. And then this week, we're going to look at the perspective of Jesus. No problem. Just...
You have that one.
Be Jesus.
You
Got it.
You get to be Jesus, which
You got it.
I'm kind of bummed about. Personally, I think I should have been Jesus, but you know,
You still can. I mean, I can,
because the beard.
you can,
But
you can be Jesus.
no, you're good.
Have at it.
You're preaching right after this. So I don't know. Let us know in the chat. Has the perspective series made sense? Has it been good? Have you gotten anything from it? Like, I kind of want to know, like, was it all right?
Because we
It's
kind of
really-
like it.
It's really hard when there's nobody here. Like,
It's hard to gauge how
reacting
you're doing.
or like, we have no idea. And so we like it.
Yeah. We'd like to do it in more stories, like more Bible stories. I mean, you guys could tell us like what stories would you like to hear done in this way? That'd be cool. To kind of get some other stories thrown out there, like where that has different people involved.
I think we lost everybody.
Did we? Brittany's back. No, we're they're back.
We're back.
We're back.
At it again.
We're back. Hey, thanks guys for bearing with us. Bear with one another.
Bear with one another's burden. In one another's burdens.
Bear one another's burdens.
That's it.
Forgiving one another as God in Christ Jesus forgave you.
Okay, Bible scholar. I don't think we're live on YouTube. It says we are born. Anyway, if you're on YouTube, let us know that we're live. If not, then don't worry about it. Maybe we are, but I can't figure it out. Here we are. Yeah, we are. We're good.
Hey.
We got it. I got it. I just can't figure it out on my iPad. So, as we were saying, what do you guys think? Ask that last question again. Missed the beginning of it.
Oh, the perspective?
Yeah.
Has our perspectives series been beneficial? Would you like to see it done with another Bible story in the future? How has it been beneficial? Or just that's dumb, don't do that anymore?
Yeah, was it garbage? like what do you guys think? We were just saying, like, it's really hard for us to tell when there's nobody here.
Yeah.
Like, you're just talking to the camera and the camera doesn't react. It doesn't really like it.
Although I've had a hard time sometimes telling when people are enjoying it when they're here or like
That's
getting
true. This is true.
I remember one time I preached a message, not here, but I preached a message, and there was this dude, there was this guy, and we were in chairs, and so I could see him, and he had his head like between his knees with his hands like over his head, and I was like, and he was just
earthquake
like,
drill.
Yeah, it was just like, I was like, what is up with it? And he would like bring his head up and then just like big deep breath and like head down, and I was like, what is going on?
Well, you were preaching that guilt and shame, weren't you?
No. And he came up to me afterwards, and he's like, that is one of the best messages I have ever heard in my life. And I was like, oh, because you were kind of acting like you hated it.
Yeah. Did you say that?
No, I did not like that. I mean, I was just like, yeah, I couldn't tell because you like had your head down, and I told him I thought he hated it, and he was like, no, it was amazing. I don't remember what it was, but it was like one of my first 10 messages ever preached.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it was really like you're really feeling the weight of the pressure. Not that you don't now, like
I wanted to do well. You know, now I've preached, hundreds of messages in my life at this point. So, I mean, I always want to do my best, but I also understand that if I totally bomb, like there's another week.
Yeah.
Like it's not the end of the world if I do bad.
If you bomb.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But it is hard. Like I was on a Zoom call earlier with a bunch of pastors, and the guy that was kind of was talking about like how as a pastor, understanding New Covenant, understanding identity in Christ, like I know that's where my identity's at. So I'm not defined by what I do, right? So I'm not defined by if I do this well, or if my church is big, or if I have as many people. And that's true. But I also wanted to like in the chat or like in the.
But was it the pastor with like an 8,000 person church?
Well, that's the thing.
That?
Like he's got a decent sized church, and I wanted to be like, look, I believe this. I believe my identity is in Christ. I like most of the time I believe that. But it's really hard when
it's nice to feel like you're doing well.
Yeah.
Like you're making a difference. Like what you're investing your life into matters.
Exactly. Anybody say anything?
No.
So this is that part where we find our identity in Christ and move on.
I mean, maybe Brittany's typing out a really long response at this point about the perspective series.
Just hit enter, Brittany. We need that. Oh, there you go. One world. You do well, Rob.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I was just waiting on mine.
How does Chad do?
Just kidding.
Like bombing in what? Yeah, I think even in a pre-recorded message, like, I mean, really, it's not like we're recording, watching it, and going, hey, let's do that again. I mean, like we work on it. Every week we have to have a new message prepared. And sometimes just, I don't know, it just doesn't, we feel like it just doesn't deliver sometimes. And then, but what I've also learned is, dude, there have been times where I felt no, we don't see.
What was it?
Now I got a whole bunch of messages like popped in. Are we still talking about hot dogs? Jose's here. We can start.
Hey, Jose's here. Oh, my comments aren't making it. There we go. We're still talking about hot. No, we've just asked a question like about perspectives. Marty said, I'm loving the perspectives talks. I'd love to get those angles for different stories. Just got here. Al Reynosa said, totally bomb. Never. The word never returns void. Someone got it.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's the thing with preaching is you can always, as long as I'm reading the Bible at some point, like I feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, as a communicator, the word is always going to do what the word does.
Yeah.
As a communicator, I want to communicate something well. I want to communicate truth. I want to communicate life, and it just, honestly, it's just more encouraging, and it makes me want to do it more when I see it impacting people.
Right.
But also, like, you have to be at peace with being where God has placed you and trusting that He's working, even though like there's things that we don't see, and
that, I mean, that is the tough thing, right? Like, yes, the word never returns void, but people leave.
Yeah.
If nobody's here and I'm preaching the word, great.
But
nobody's here. Like, so like that's there. Like, eventually there's still something where like, and I mean, there's, I don't know, it's something like 4,000 churches in San Antonio. So like you can go anywhere and pick a different church.
Yeah.
Um,
And Jose says,
and that's fine.
yeah, Jose says God used a donkey. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be a donkey.
Yeah.
Like I would prefer to be an effective communicator. I think that's what like the
Right.
apostles would say too. I
Yeah.
mean, when they wrote letters, they were communicating effectively. And that's where we have our Bible, is by people writing and communicating effectively. And like, we want to be good communicators. We want to communicate things clearly and beneficially, and and we don't want people to just leave because they like how somebody else says it better. But
Yeah.
it's. I mean, that's just the reality of pastoring is, if you're not doing a good job, like we live in this consumer mentality driven culture, and people will get up and leave.
Yeah.
And like that's something that you have to swallow as a pastor.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason. There's a lot of reasons to it, but I think it's Barna that did the study that says that 10% of pastors actually end their career as a pastor.
Yeah.
Like retire as a pastor.
Yeah.
90% of them leave the ministry.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. So to say to that person, well, just read the word, brother.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's hard, because people that you've invested your life and time and sweat and tears into go, I don't like how you said that. I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like
Wait.
we sat and cried together.
Yeah.
Like I've prayed for you every day, you know, and like I disagree with you on that point. I think we're better suited up, you know, like that's a hard thing to swallow.
And I get it. Like it's like, that's not, don't hear it. Like, don't think that we're complaining.
No,
But,
just
like,
being
we're
a little
not.
open.
We're just kind of being open and honest. Like,
we both have options to just go do other things. We're
right.
here. We're
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, that's not that. Yeah, it's not like the army where I signed up and they owned me for the time that I signed. Like we could go do whatever. We could get other jobs, but this is where we think God's called us, and we're
This is important.
This is important.
To us.
It matters, and we're not asking for. Maybe it is a little bit for our I don't think it is for our benefit. I think it's more of, hey, is this beneficial for you? Because we like the Perspective series.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it. We enjoyed teaching it. We enjoy looking at it from different perspectives, and would like to do it with other stories.
Brittany says yes to doing it with other stories. She's loved it.
Just an example, a while back at the Arsenal, Rob and I were super stoked about a series we did called The Together Life. And we got a ton of people that were like, oh, no, like I'll come back when you finish that.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, what? Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. We loved it.
But it didn't go so well.
It was a
so,
flop.
Yeah. And I don't think a total flop. Like, some people liked it, but at the end of the day, like, it was not people's favorite thing.
It was definitely not what we hoped it would be.
No, we thought people were going to be like, oh, this is amazing. That's not what happened. Quite a few people that were like, no, you're nice try. Like, not what I come to church for. But yeah, it was interesting. What do you got?
Brittany says she especially liked this week because it talked about who the Arsenal is. You talked a lot about the heart of the Arsenal and the way that we we want to be those guys who are tearing the roof off, who are, like saying, hey, you don't have to press through the religious crowd in order to get to Jesus. We will rip the roof off this thing and you can come right in. We'll lower you down. Like, we're with you.
Yep.
We got you.
Yeah. No, as I read through the story and started looking at it and kind of seeing where we were going with it, that was definitely, I was like, oh man, this is the Arsenal. Like, this is who we've always said we want to be. This is it. And so I was pretty excited I got to do that one, and you have to do Jesus. But so Jesus is going to be tough, man.
It is.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got a teaser for us? Do we?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things as I was kind of going through this, like, this will be kind of part of my message, I guess. But one of the things as I was going through this, like, going like, hey, let's get into the perspective of Jesus. I don't think I've ever done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Where with other stories, I have thought about like, oh man, what would it have been like to be there watching Jesus do these miracles? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've thought those things a lot. Or what would it be like to have Jesus come, heal me, or those types of things, but never like, what would it be like to be Jesus? Like that just seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
But we do in other ways, because what do? We get a bracelet that says WWJD, like, well,
Do you still have one of those?
I'd never had one.
Never?
Never. KC wears
You
two
were a
of them, I think.
Christian in the 90s.
I know. I'm telling you,
Or
man.
were
like,
you?
there-
I mean, jeez.
there are so many things that we talk about, like with like Christianity in the 90s and early 2000s, and I'm like, yeah, I just
didn't do it.
I
Yeah.
just didn't. I never had a True Love Waits ring.
Pastor's kids.
I know.
What are you going to do? I can't believe you just brought up True Love Waits, but whatever.
Well, we had been talking about that.
Yeah.
But I never had the ring. I never, they do these like ceremonies where like there's all these kids like,
You have to pledge to your parents.
yeah, like you're going to keep yourself pure.
You're going to be
like,
celibate.
And it wasn't that I was like, no, I
Abstinent,
want
I
to go,
guess.
I want to go out and have a lot of sex. I was just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get up on the stage and put on a ring and
Yeah.
have a ceremony like that.
That's-
That just,
Yeah, that's not. Here it is. I was trying to look for this. I found it. So there was a pastor one time that was talking about what's expected of being a pastor.
read that.
What's
Yeah.
expected of a pastor in giving a sermon? DeMarcus, you'll like this as someone who's looked at and thought about and will eventually probably preach. Here's what a pastor is asked to do when they step up on the stage to
This is a
teach
great
sermon.
description of the pressure. And I think what we can get out of this is like, know that your pastor, because not everybody on here is a lot of people have another pastor, right? Like we're not your pastors. We're like somebody you hang out with online and you have a pastor in person. Like, man, give them grace and give them support and appreciate them for who they are and appreciate what they bring to the table, and don't expect them to ever be anybody else. But
Yeah.
that should say it.
Yes, it says this. So, pastor, this is what when you preach, you get up on stage to speak a sermon, this is what we expect. Be vulnerable and honest and personal, but not too personal because this isn't a therapy session. And we need lots of Bible, but not too much because it has to relate to what's happening in our lives and the time of the world today. But it can't be political, and it has to be challenging and deep and significant, and at the same time easy for everybody to understand. And it has to be funny, but not too funny because you're not a comedian, you're a pastor. And while you're at it, mix it up, try new things, and don't get into a rut. But make sure to be consistent and talk about your own struggles, but not too much because that's depressing. And we love stories about your family, but not too many. That can be weird. Just be vulnerable and honest and keep going. Like that, that's the reality of it. Like, how do we walk that line as we speak? And so I remember hearing that and being like, yes, that's exactly what that is. Every single week for any pastor that steps up. And now, I mean, you're talking about pastors that are speaking like to a camera.
Yeah, it's I mean,
online,
just like
in
we
a
were
whole
talking
new
about
way.
how hard it is for teachers right now, right?
Oh,
we all
man,
see
I
this
can't
with kids
imagine.
and teachers. They're trying to like do these classes.
Wild.
It's very similar for pastors. I feel like because we like YouTube, like we've adapted probably better than most, especially small churches, because there's just not the equipment, there's not the know-how, there's just so much that goes into putting out something decent online, and it's weird. Like we said, you can't even tell, like, was that good? Was it helpful at all?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And so I don't know. It's hard, man. Give your pastor grace, and really the big thing is like when you come in expecting your pastor to meet like all of these things, what you're doing is robbing yourself of what he is bringing. Because if you're going,
he
hey,
or her.
he or her,
Yeah, well, we'll throw that out at the arsenal.
yeah, there you go. So if he or she is, an incredible storyteller, and you prefer a little bit more Bible reading. Well, you're going to sit there the whole time going like again with,
Yeah.
like, no, appreciate the story. You have a Bible, read it.
Hey. Okay, Rob. All right.
Honestly, that was one of the first sermons I ever preached right there.
Yeah.
Because I was in a church where I wasn't the pastor, I was the worship leader, and I had heard people say, "Well, I just feel like I'm not getting fed," and I'm like, you've been a Christian for 50 years. Feed yourself. Like, go to the kitchen, make a snack. Like, I literally said that in my sermon. Like, get up off your.
How'd that go over, worship leader?
I don't know. I didn't lose my job or anything.
Hey, that works.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
I felt like I had a little more.
I didn't know. Alex comment on here said, "Don't knock the PKs." Alex, are you a PK? I did not know that. Alex with the good hair. You know Alex with the good hair.
Yeah.
So don't knock the PKs. One world pastors with terrible vocals are terrible to bear for an hour. That's tough too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That I get that.
Yeah. Pastors are expected to behave perfect 24. Yeah. That's a huge thing in our culture today, and that's why you see a lot of like, not the only reason, but we see a lot of mental health issues. We see a lot of like pastors who are doing really well, and then suddenly there's this huge moral failure. And like, no, it's not this sudden thing. A lot of it is stuff that they felt like they had to keep hidden for so long.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you ask for help, you get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not perfect.
Yeah.
Like more, and they see that moral failure. Oh, you have temptation, you're not fit to, like, that's the pressure that pastors feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a correct response, and sometimes there are people who are going to behave lovingly and acceptingly and restorative, but you never know until you put it out there.
Yeah. I mean,
Lots of pressure.
A lot. And I mean, you're supposed to be the answer man, right? Like, I remember when I was doing a study on, what was it on in listening. When I was doing the listening series, I did a study on isolation and people that isolate, and then people that, oh man, what was it? I just went blank.
Like how important it is to listen to people so they don't isolate.
I don't know. All I can remember is the minister of loneliness. Loneliness, that's what it was. So it was a study on loneliness, and Harvard did a study on professions and those that are in professions that test lonely or test high on the loneliness scale. And pastors and doctors were like the top two.
Way up there, yeah.
Because it is like, who do you talk to? And that's why like having other pastors or having elders that you can have those conversations with is so necessary.
Yeah.
And the reality of like, hey, we're not perfect. And at the end of the day, God didn't call me to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because there was only one person that was perfect, that was Jesus, and because of him, his life is in and through me.
Yeah.
Like I'm perfect in that way, just like anybody else is. And so
well, it's like, I think it's Galatians 6 something. It says if one of you, stumbles or is caught in a trespass, let those who are spiritual around him restore him gently. And a lot of times, like, we go, well, we're going to restore you, and it's not gently. Like, there's nothing gentle about it.
Yeah.
It should be gentle.
Yep.
Like, we should approach even the most major like failures with love and compassion and gentleness, because there are a lot more people involved than just the one person, and a lot of times we get more concerned with accountability than we do with the direct command, restore them gently.
That wasn't our question.
No, it wasn't our question. So this week we're looking at the perspective of Jesus.
Hey, wait. DeMarcus made a comment. He said, this reminds me of cancel culture and how harmful it can be.
Yeah.
I've said this before. I think the evangelical church started cancel culture.
I think it's been around for a long time.
But if you go back, it's a big thing in the. I mean, we grew up in the time where like boycott Disney.
Yeah.
We're not, hey, Christians, boycott Disney because
I never did.
Yeah, but I mean, like that was totally a thing.
Yeah.
We're boycotting Disney.
But
because,
also,
like,
what we're doing there is we're defining an entire group by the loudest members of it, and there were some leaders
yeah,
of that group, but also there was probably the majority of people were kind of like, you know what I mean? Like boycott Starbucks because their cup doesn't have Christmas decorations on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it didn't have Jesus on it. It was like it didn't have snowflakes or it was just plain red.
that was that it, or was it because it didn't say Christmas?
It
I think
did-
it's because they said they were gonna say Happy Holidays and it didn't say Christmas on it.
I think they had been saying Happy Holidays for a long time.
Yeah.
It was because it was red, and
It's just like I've seen like,
but
oh,
also
man, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Like when
but that's just the loudest people.
well, like I remember like Xmas, like saying Xmas was like, oh, you're trying to take Christ out of
No,
Christmas.
X literally means Christ.
Like that.
is what
That's where it came from. Like X, it's in the Greek, right?
Yeah.
X in the Greek means Christ.
Yeah.
So the point was like it. You're just using shorthand.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
it's just wild.
Calm down.
Calm down. I mean, like we were talking about the other day, Harry Potter. Like we weren't allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
You probably did because you didn't care, but.
I
Actually, you were probably older by the time Harry Potter
Yeah,
came
I
out.
never had a desire to watch it until my friend invited me over to watch the first two. Both the first two movies were out, and so I went over because I liked his sister. So
All right. Get it, Rob. Let's go. One World's got, let's see.
but I've seen all the Harry Potters now, and I like they're cool.
All right, let's do this last question. It's 5:10. We'll do this
Okay,
last question.
So looking at perspective of Jesus, one thing that's really hard, and it can be a very dangerous thing. I'll talk about that a little bit in my message, like the way we can kind of get this like what we would call righteous anger, and really we're just using the Bible to give us an upper hand, and like we're never even open to the idea that, man, maybe I could do this better, or maybe I'm wrong, or so it can be dangerous in that way. But one thing looking at this story, Jesus was like this amazing teacher, and at this point in his ministry, is very early on. He'd been doing all these miracles. He was pretty fresh on the scene. He hadn't even called all of his disciples yet. So he's there, he's doing all this stuff, and crowds are just, there's like so many people just crowded around, cramming in this house that like you can't even get in, right? And then somebody interrupts him. You know what I mean? Like he's teaching, like to me, I would be like, what is this interruption to my very important teaching? Like, I don't know if you know this, I'm very important and you're interrupting me, but that's not how he responds.
Right.
But that was just like one small part of the story that I thought was interesting. So we had this question, tell us about a time you've been interrupted while doing something important.
Oh, man. Well, we were talking about preaching earlier.
Have you been interrupted while preaching?
Oh, for sure. Remember, were you not here that week? It's happened a couple times.
Patrick?
Well, one time Patrick was like, I'm preaching, and you could hear his phone going
Oh, yeah.
because
I was on stage with you.
he was watching
It was
the
during the
Cowboys game.
Together
It was
live
together. That's how boring it was, apparently. He was watching the Cowboys and I think Packers game.
Yeah.
And we mentioned something about the Cowboys, and he was like, "Oh, scores 27-17 or whatever it was." Like
He's calling out the
Cowboys
score
are losing
during church. Yeah.
there was another guy that came in. Remember the guy that was like that came to the front of the church and like came after us one time.
Oh, yeah.
He came to church a couple weeks later,
Yeah.
and like in the middle of my sermon was like not like talking back in this, like he was like, no, like he like started asking questions or like making statements.
And we like interaction here at the Arsenal.
We talked to him, and I was like, yeah, but the issue is I'm super ADD, and so you get me off course, like here we go, I'm chasing that squirrel, and so like I'm like, man, I'm trying to make a point, and now there's no way I'm hitting my point. I don't know what I was trying to say now, and like, all right, well,
I had one interruption that always, well, it happened a couple times. I had this older lady in my church, and she was starting to like suffer from like Alzheimer's, and like her daughter took care of her and would like drive her to church. Twice during church, like I'm speaking, like right in the middle of the sermon, and she just stands up and goes, "Pastor," and walks up to the front and like takes the microphone, and I'm like, what do I do? And she just starts like, it was not coherent.
nuh-uh.
So she just starts going, and I'm like, yeah, well, thank you. And so like, I tried to like, what do you do?
Yeah. What do you
so
do?
eventually I was like, I got the mic back from her, and she felt like she said what she wanted to say, thank you so much. And then she did it again. And then I had this other older lady in the church who was probably had more mental health issues. And she goes, I told her if she does that again, I'll tackle her right to the ground before she gets up to you. And I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So I don't know. I've had a few things like that, but mostly from, but in that situation, to me, I felt like, okay, like I'm trying to make a point in my message, and now it's time to put that aside.
Yeah.
And you can respond lovingly in this situation. Because it'd be real easy to go like, hey, could I get somebody up here to remove sister from the stage?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know, like I learned that from reading about Jesus. And that's what he does here in this story. He doesn't go like, no, hey,
I'm
you guys,
teaching.
Hey,
Get out of
messing
here.
up the roof. Get out of here. Like, there's something very important going on.
Right.
Like he goes, no, he goes, no, there's something very important's going on right now. And there is something very important going on, like much bigger than even anything that anybody came for.
Right.
He was like, no, I got something bigger, and I'm going to show you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, One World says church is not perfect science. You deal with it as things happen. Like when electricity goes off, the microphone goes dead. We've had that happen a few times.
And just today.
Or if you really have to go to the wash closet, I think that's what that means, WC.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of your sermon.
Just turn your wireless mic off when you go.
Yep. I don't know if I've ever had to do that. Oh, I think one time I had to really go. And luckily we did, if you haven't been to the Arsenal, like when we're here, a lot of times we do, what do you call it? Like group time.
Oh yeah. Community chat.
Community chat where we ask a question and everybody gets to answer questions. And I was like, all right, community chat, here's the question. And then I like ran off the stage to go to the bathroom while everybody's talking.
Nice.
That's the worst. Waste cabin. That's what it is.
Huh.
That's an interesting word.
The waste cabin. All right.
Chris Cantoya said expecto
Patronum.
Expecto
Patronum.
Did you see me over here?
Huh?
I was Googling what that meant. Like expecto patronum. It popped up. I was like, oh, that's what that means. Oh man. Yeah, I never got into Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I've watched it with my kids, but
yeah, I've watched it, and then I watched through with my kids.
yeah.
I wasn't like as excited about it as some people are, but
Yeah, they get super excited.
Like it was good. It was fine. I enjoyed it.
Anybody else have a good story about getting interrupted in the middle of something? And we're gonna get off here. It's 5:17. We talked a lot today.
We did. Well, we also had a little technical difficulties, and
I mean, it's the chat. That's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Next week we're gonna be perfect. Next week.
Perfect next week.
Hey, you know what? Perfection's not expected. Right? That's what we say around here.
Expecto perfecto.
That's what we're gonna start saying at the beginning of the chat. That's gonna be our expecto perfecto.
I think we're losing them now.
I think everybody's gone. Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you guys have a great week.
Come hang out Sunday.
Hang out Sunday as we finish off the chat.
Yeah.
Rob will be Jesus. It's going to be a good one.
Not finish the chat, finish
Or
perspectives.
the perspectives. Yeah. What am I talking about? We're going to finish perspectives. We'll be back here for the chat next Wednesday. It's going to be perfect.
It's going to be perfect.
It'll be
Love you
perfect.
guys. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for jumping back on.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out even through our mess ups. Thanks for having grace for us, just
Grace
like
for us.
Jesus
Yeah.
had grace for you. You see that?
Hey, that was good.
All right, we're out of here on that one.
you guys.
Expecto perfecto. Later.